I know the kind of pain you're feeling, Alex. I once had it myself.
You some kind of doctor?
No, Alex. I am Magneto, and I have come to offer you sanctuary.
Welcome to the second season of Grounded Futures podcast. This is the show where we discuss topics ranging from climate change to identity to how youth can gain new skills to thrive amid current and ongoing disasters that we are collectively facing. We are your hosts, Liam and Carla.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carla, and thanks for tuning in to Grounded Futures. We produce the show on Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh lands, but our guests are from around the world. Each episode has a short segment that happens around mid-show that is called Delighting in Our Friends, where we share our friends' work and delight in them. The music for our show is by Gout, also known as Zach Bergman.
Hi. So for today's show, we are joined by our dear friends, Kitty. Kitty Sipple is a disabled, white, queer, non-binary femme. Collectively, they are mad and multiple. Recognizing that their experience of many in one body as an altered state is the lens through which they experience the world. They are deeply connected to supporting interdependent solutions around healing, justice, and accessibility for the LGBTQIA+ community. From facilitating writing workshops to holding space in peer-led support groups, they are interested in the symbiotic nature of community care. They just graduated from UMN Twin Cities, where they received a BS in Engineering Studies, Holistic Health and Healing, and Plant Fungal Biology. Kitty lives on the land of Dakota and Ojibwe people, which is currently called Minneapolis, Minnesota. Kitty uses they/them pronouns. Welcome back to the show.
Yay!
Welcome, and happy Samhain. Happy Witches New Year. Happy Halloween.
Yay.
Happy everything. It is a potent weekend.
Yeah.
I guess when this comes out, it won't be Halloween anymore, though.
It's okay. This is the intention of the show in this container of the veil and the crossing over the Samhain threshold into a new year, into the darkness of the winter and months ahead. Yeah, so
It's my favorite time of year.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming back to our show. And Liam and I are why we invited you all back is because we want to go deeper into a few pieces that we touched on in the first episode with you all, but also it's just conversations that I have had with you all, but also you all are really great at starting these conversations online, and I'm really grateful. And the first question is actually going to go really kind of big. I really would love to hear what you all have to say and the history and everything about sanism, because a lot of people don't even, when I say that to folks, they're like, huh, what is that? And it is, if there's a foundation for oppression, I would probably think it's it. But I'm not going to say too much more because I would really love to hear what y'all have to say about the whole world of what it means to be sane or insane.
It's probably one of our favorite topics to talk about. And in kind of like classic us form, spent the last 2 days researching the cultural history of the word, the origin of the phrase, the origin of sanity, the origin of sanism, and have stumbled upon some like incredible history that I'm personally really excited to talk about. So I preface this might be like a large info dump. and it kind of feels, I'm going to also preface this, there is this meme that I really like, which is a picture of Iron Man the actor who plays Iron Man. And it says, when did you become an expert in quantum physics? And his response was last night. So I kind of feel like I have been synthesizing personally all of the information we've been researching into sanism and sanity. So I took a lot of notes. But in order to, like, for us personally, in order to understand something like sanism, the first thing that I did was research what the word sanity is. And a lot of these terms, like, have mythological kind of ideas and concepts and definitions, but they're not super grounded. They change from person to person. And so I wanted to go to, like, the person who, like, kind of originated the term. And it's a long time ago. But sanity was basically the idea of soundness, rationality, and the health of the human mind, which feels really arbitrary. And I think somewhere the term got kind of, like, subverted from its original kind of idea, because the person who defined it basically believed, and these were his words, his name was Alfred K. I'm not going to say his last name, I can't pronounce it. Believed that sanity was tied to logical reasoning and comprehension, for lack thereof, of what is going on in the world. So it was, like, definitely tied to your perception of the world. And I only know about empire through knowing you, Carla. And so really understanding this as, like, a domination subjugation kind of paradigm, it makes sense that this conceptual idea of sanity kind of got subverted to be a dominant force of empire. And so I think that's where sanism came from, is an ism around sanity. And so, like, looking into the person who coined the word sanism, there's this guy named Morton Birnbaum. And Morton Birnbaum, he was a lawyer and, like, a legal physician. And what's interesting is he's the first person to publicly define sanism. And he defines sanism as an irrational thinking and feeling and or behavior patterns of response by an individual or by society to the irrational, but in parentheses, and too often even the rational behavior of a mentally ill individual. And mentally ill was kind of the phrase to understand illness of the mind in some sort of fashion. And he wrote this in the 60s, right? So, like, the path around mental health, what was happening during that time, like the psychiatric survivor movement kind of started. The psychiatric, consumer and service user movement kind of started around this time frame. But the reason why he's kind of known to coin sanism is because he was a lawyer based in the U.S. and actually had a landmark case that went to the Supreme Court about right to treatment for people who are psychiatrically incarcerated. And he defined his landmark case in terms of sanism, and that sanists are bigots. And he called sanism morally reprehensible. And so, like, that was the foundation. But okay, so this is the beautiful part, and this is, like, where madness comes into it. I was sourcing a lot of this through Wikipedia, because in 2021, Wikipedia is a really strong encyclopedia that is community defined and supported, and I absolutely love it. But the beautiful part of Wikipedia is that it has a lot of resources that you can kind of click. That's what I do. I click the resources, and I connect dots that are like little breadcrumbs of history that sometimes people don't connect. And so in the section of sanism, where it said that Morton Birnbaum was the person who coined the term, but he was greatly influenced by this person that he went to Columbia Law School with, as the definition of that completely influenced his definition of sanism. And I was like, I want to know that person. And it was a radical Black feminist named Florence Kennedy. And and I was like, and she went by Still Kennedy, and I was like, I would have I would have remembered hearing the name Flo Kennedy and all of the people who talk about sanism, who talk about Mad Pride, who talk about these movements. I would have remembered a name like Flo Kennedy. And not only was Flo Kennedy a Black feminist, radical Black woman lawyer, she was also working from the position of intersectionality decades before the term was even kind of defined by Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989. And so and the only reason, weirdly enough, about Morton Birnbaum's influence by Florence Kennedy was actually related by Morton's daughter after his death, right? And there could be a million reasons why Morton Birnbaum never publicly referenced Florence Kennedy. And all of those, there's a lot of grief around that, right? And I don't know if the theory of the word sanism might have been Morton's own language, but the theory behind it was most definitely Florence Kennedy, 100%. And so I'm shaking as I'm talking about this because I'm so excited.
We can feel it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And so I started to do a deep dive into who Florence Kennedy was, right? Because if the concept of sanism was completely influenced by just conversation that this radical Black woman had with this obviously radical cishet white Jewish man, right? They graduated from Columbia Law at the same time. And so there had to be some sort of parallel for them to have an established friendship. And so I based the hope that maybe Morton didn't totally kind of co-opt her idea and maybe kind of was influenced and was able to spread it in his own way. Who knows? But Florence Kennedy, I'm going to read some quotes by her because it's beautiful, because it really captures why I think the theory of sanism was the place where she originated for all of her liberatory political action, because she was a founding member of the National Organization of Women. She was a founding member of a lot of Black liberation movements, and she connected the pieces. And I'm going to read something. So many notes. Okay, this is a paraphrase of her words, but she said that we have a pathologically and institutionally racist, sexist, and classist society. And for me, when I'm looking at the cultural understanding of how sanism kind of came about and then went away and now is resurfacing, is that this theory, looking at the politics of Florence Kennedy, her main focus that kind of brought women's liberation movements, gay rights liberation movements, she talked a lot about sex workers, Black liberation movements, were all classified by the pathologizing of it. And she said that violence that hurts Black people also hurts women, LGBTQ people, formerly incarcerated people, sex workers, youth, elders, disabled people, and Indigenous people. If we can analyze the pathology of oppression, we could learn how to deal with it. Right? Sorry, I'm I know, I'm watching this.
When was that quote? When was that? Sorry, don't.
I think this quote was from, it was either 68, 69, 70, or 71.
Wow.
Because
right?
what's exciting is youth is very rarely even today. Bell Hooks might be one of the only people besides the youth liberation folks, right? That world. So that's just powerful. And sex work too. Those two especially often are kicked out of the conversation.
Yeah.
100%. And I preface this that I paraphrased it because her language was specific to her time, right? And I encourage who's ever hearing this to go read her words, because it's really powerful, the words that she chose at the time that it was happening. And even to mention sex workers as prostitutes, that was a big deal. And so I just get so when literally 2 days ago when I was researching this, I had a moment with my partner and I was like, how am I the only person? Am I the last person to know this? That's what I thought. I was like, how did I not know that sanism was like the foundational aspect of connecting Black, like Black radical feminism and all of these other things. And this is a lot that you and I talk about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even just kind of looking in like how Florence Kennedy established herself. Internally, we keep calling her the mother of madness because she often wore a cowboy hat and pink sunglasses wherever she went, right? She wore fake eyelashes and this is all, like I said, internet Wikipedia, but like she called it her Daffy Duck eyelashes. She has a lot of great quotes. One that says, "Don't agonize, organize." And I was like, oh, right? Yeah. And so, this idea of sanism is kind of like a resurfaced radical idea that even in its creation has a mythos that's lost from its origin. And there's one more quote by her that really, this is where the mother of madness kind of came from. And this, once again, is a paraphrase. I encourage anyone listening to actually go read her words. She has a lot of published writing. But this is Florence Kennedy talking about herself. And this quote was written around the early 70s because she created and organized and participated in what was called the Harvard P.M., where a bunch of radical direct action where they poured fake urine on the steps of Harvard to bring attention that there wasn't enough women's bathrooms.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "I'm just a loudmouth, middle-aged Black lady with a fused spine and 3 feet of intestines missing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people think I'm crazy. Maybe you do too. But I never stop to wonder why I'm not like other people. The mystery to me is why more people aren't like me."
Yes. Yes.
That's perfect.
Oh my gosh, she is the mother of madness.
She's the mother of madness. And so and it's so cool because personally, all of us internally have kind of been trying to understand how the mad identity is rooted as an anti-sanist approach. And this kind of brings it all together of understanding madness as a mad praxis approach to liberatory movements overall. I don't know if I answered the question. That's my response.
No, that was exactly the history of sanism and everything like that. That's exactly what we did ask.
Yeah, I mean, you went and found like the hidden lineages. I think I texted you and said, we're interested in uncovering lineages that are covered up. And that's what y'all did. Y'all went and found the most incredible story. Yeah, I guess just like following up, like just for clarity for our listeners who are really new to this idea, like sanism is like, how would you define it? And just like how would you all define it?
So I previously read the definition by Morton Birnbaum, who what his definition was.
Yeah.
And for me, the embodied definition of sanism is that there is a system of oppression that is foundationally built upon adhering to this idea of consensus reality that is predicated on morality, rationality, logic, intelligence, all of these systems that really are immeasurable and are completely influenced and defined and controlled by other dominant systems of oppression. It's kind of like that feedback mechanism. And so if you can say that something or someone is insane, then you can reference a binary that there is another way to not be insane, but to be sane and be kind of part of this moral majority. And that moral majority is empowered or emboldened to criminalize in every aspect, right? Not through just involuntary or psychiatric incarceration, but through denial of services, denial of spaces, limited access to anything based on this kind of intangible metric of what is considered insane. And a lot of times the idea of insanity is rooted in extreme states. And I define extreme states kind of as a collective experience of altered or distorted sensory perception characteristics. And sometimes that extreme state is distressful, but it doesn't necessarily mean that all extreme states have to be distressful. And so sanism is that framework that works on a domination based on this kind of arbitrary idea of who is of sound mind and who isn't.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That was really great.
Amazing.
Thank you for opening that up. And yeah.
Definitely. That actually, it works perfectly into the next kind of question thing. I, as, someone who is queer and, on the spectrum and whatnot, I wanted you to kind of like share, the lineage of neuroqueer and talk about why y'all use that term and just bring up all of that. Yeah, just go into that.
So neuroqueer is a fun word. And and sometimes like I think back collectively to how we encountered some of these words, and it is the memories are like mists of magic, and I have no idea. And so somehow one of us found neuroqueer probably through searching madness, mad pride, mad identity, kind of going down digital rabbit holes to really seek out language that could describe our existence. And I think that's, really discovering the mad identity opened this door to like, there is curious possibility of ways to identify, and language is malleable, right? And playful. And so neuroqueer, I found neuroqueer through the co-creator access point of Nick Walker. And Nick Walker is an autistic trans feminine person. I don't know if she identifies as a trans woman or a trans femme, so I just want to be mindful of that, but her pronouns are she, her. And she kind of, she has a website called neuroqueer.com, but she was a co-creator of the phrase, and the other co-creators, there's like 3 or 4 of them. They all kind of like auspiciously happened at the same time. And so I think that's just important to know that this was a theory and an idea and an embodied experience that multiple beings were having at the same time and kind of came up with. And then they realized that the origin was not really rooted in one seed. It was multiple seeds planted. And so, but Nick Walker, she has like an amazing kind of updated, that was just recently updated, summer 2021. But the original kind of definition was 2015. And I encourage people to read both of them. Both of them are published online, and you can see the evolution of the word and the theory and how it's been updated, 6 years later. But it was neuroqueer is both an adjective and a verb. So automatically the word has multiplicity built into it. And so it invites you to play with the idea that who you are can also be an action. And it looks at the connection of queerness and neurofabulousness, neuroemergence, neurodivergence, neurodifference, any sort of kind of physical neuro framework that your body may have could be deeply connected and tied to queerness as an action and as a noun. And so it kind of, the definition is considered a working definition. It is not static. It is considered to be a communal, developing, embodied experience. And so my understanding is that if neuroqueer resonates with you, then it is yours. It is yours to use and to spread into the world. And that is the cool thing, because it encompasses so many things. Like for us, our neuroqueerness has being autistic underneath of it, has being multiple underneath of it. And that is such a beautiful kind of intersection, because it recognizes that it's not just my body, it's not just our mind, it is the combination of the body mind, right? It's that third space. People fucking love a binary. They love it.
We really need to like get rid of that haunted knowledges that it's wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, God. You know, and I think a lot of times in binary, the experience of the binary is not spatial. It's a line, right? And as soon as you add a third point, 2 points, you automatically create a spatial experience, right? And a spatial experience is not easily dominated. And so that third data point, which breaks open any binary, I think is the best to kind of push for. And neuroqueerness and neuroqueering and being a neuroqueer person and neuroqueer being pushes those binaries, because it challenges what is queer. It challenges what is neurodifferent. What does it mean to be neurofabulous and neurotranscendent and neuroemergent? I have no idea, but it feels queer to me. It is my experience of being neurodifferent and being queer are inherently linked. And that doesn't feel bad, because it shows me on like a micro fractal scale that even identifying and embodied experiences can be interdependent. So it's like symbiosis.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, a conversation we've had in the house a bit is how, with saying neurodivergent or neurodifferent or something like that is kind of the same as if when talking about homosexuality, we started saying het different or het divergent. It's like, to people, if I said, oh yeah, I'm het different, they would be like, that's not right. That sounds weird. But then they all go around saying neurodifferent, which is the same thing. And I really like neuroqueer because of that, because it's like, it actually makes it just a thing that we are and not something that we have, a problem that we have or something. Yeah.
It's a reclamation. It feels like a reclamation of the beauty of your own internal organization, right? And it pushes back against that idea that something is a disorder, right? And it's like, no, fuck you. I just have my own pattern that you can't see.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to curse.
Yeah. Oh, no, cursing's allowed.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
We're into creating a sanctuary and an autonomy zone here on Grounded Futures.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
Yeah, and it's just also like why it just that thing with saying difference and divergent is that it's it's back to that binary, because it's saying that there is a typical, which we all actually know there's not an actual neurotypical space, right? It's a continuum. It's
mythical.
It's very
mythical.
it's so
Yeah.
So I also like neuroqueer, and I found it through you, Kitty, you all, and it finally was like, oh, I can get behind this, because it opens up the possibilities, and it keeps us curious, and open, and I love the adjective part. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Hi, this is our Delighting in Our Friends short segment. This month, we are thrilled to highlight our dear friend, Hari Alluri. Hari is an incredible poet. He has a few amazing books, and many more of his vital and magical poems are out there. Be sure to link to his website in the show notes.
Yeah, for sure. Be sure to get Hari's amazing books. His poetry just brings so much pleasure and joy and thoughtfulness to the everyday, and we love him. I can't even remember not having Hari in our life. And Kitty reminded us of the idea of the importance of giving roses to the living. And that's kind of what we're striving to do with this segment. So here's some roses for Hari. And today we chose Hari's poem, Dragon Shoots Its Whispers, aka The Lightning Speaks. For this show, we will share the audio only, but we encourage you all to go out and watch the entire multimedia piece, a collaboration with the incredible Ruby Singh. We will have all the links to get this work and all of Hari's work in the show notes.
Yes, and not only are the words amazing, but the video adds another whole level of magic to it for lots of reasons. But for me, it's because it showcases Uncle Iroh from Avatar: The Last Airbender. And we are all big fans of Uncle Iroh and the whole Avatar universe. I will read a quote by Uncle Iroh at the end of Hari's poem because it's in the video.
Yeah, yay, Uncle Iroh. He is like probably one of the best, if not the best, adult characters out there in terms of unconditional love and care and support for everybody, really, but particularly young people. Yay, Uncle Iroh. Okay, and again, be sure to check out Hari's work by following him over on Twitter at Hari Alluri. That's HariAlluri. And here is the powerful and magical poem, Dragon Shoots Its Whispers, aka The Lightning Speaks.
Dragon shoots its whispers, aka the lightning speaks. You ask where I feel safe, I tell you when, at all. You ask as if my entire existence is not attempting to escape forces that shape me. Sound my shadow, count the seconds, thunderclap, hello. I matchstick into being because I want to disappear. The rend of sulfur music, muscle me, you pay. The need that's in me strikes. Cathedral in the air, I'm wraith. See me frenzy down so quick, you miss I'm really rising. Embrace me exaltation, all my light in jamming breath. Embrace me the distance I cannot abide. Call mercy, filament of exile. Fear the repair I bring. Wanting my deliverance turns clouds into what begs the charge to transfer. Feral into form. Volcano, sandstorm, jungle, flame, typhoon. Now you, the finger you point me with, sweeten it with blame you no longer encumber. Sky full up with heron wing. Now you, your scar, what begs? Remittance I've been breathing since before I knew a name for anything but love. Forgive me when you call me in. Sinawali movement, serpentine, and fly. Ionize the mess in you. Healing means I exit. Liberty's no pity. Passion fever when I shine? Cold-blooded fire.
That was such a beautiful poem. And here is the quote from Iroh. There is energy all around us. The energy is both yin and yang, positive energy and negative energy. Only a select few firebenders can separate these energies. This creates an imbalance. The energy wants to restore balance, and in a moment, the positive and negative energy come crashing back together. You provide release and guidance, creating lightning.
Of course, that was Uncle Iroh to Zuko, my kin, in Bitter Work, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Thanks again, Hari. We delight in you every day. And now, back to our show. So the third thing, so that was 2. They're all, as you can see, they're not 3 distinct things. They're interwoven, and you all are so good at weaving. So the ad is the next one is to like kind of go into the notion of mad and being mad and identifying it as mad. And I'm hoping you all will talk about your NFT project, your madness art project. But I want to quote you from your, this will be out by the time this show's on. So it was under Mad Praxis. Y'all said, we are deeply connected to understanding the political nature of the mad identity, which has often been positioned through 2 paths, mad studies and mad pride. And maybe talk to us about why that binary kind of is happening, and why y'all are talking about praxis, and connect that to the wonderful nifty trinkets that are going to be out there for us all. So it's a big question, I know, but
yeah. Okay. So I can't, similar to the mythological origin of memory, I can't really remember how we came across mad pride. And I think that being queer and trans, non-binary, and disabled, we were aware of movements that originated with kind of like community-based identification and feeling pride within that identification. And I think that somehow stumbled upon the Mad Pride movement. And even in looking at the cultural and historical kind of development of Mad studies and Mad Pride, it was really focused in 2 areas, in the UK and in Toronto, which I'm not familiar with the people whose land Toronto sits on. But anyways, these 2 kind of parallel Mad Pride and Mad Studies were kind of it's like chicken before the egg. Which came first? Who knows? And it was what was interesting was the Mad Pride movement was kind of like the next branch that developed. It wasn't the complete next evolution, but it was really just a branching off from the psychiatric survivors, psychiatric users, psychiatric patients movement of like the early 70s. And so that movement kind of took over for a while, which kind of morphed into the anti-psychiatry movement, which was like another branch, right? and so you have the psychiatric survivors movement, and that had many names, but that's kind of the name that I use because we identify as psychiatric survivors. And then there was the anti-psychiatry movement, which also identifies as anti-psychiatry. And I think multiple timelines can be held, and multiple different narratives can be held. And another branch that kind of came off really that tree of, I would say, the Mad Liberation tree was the Mad Pride movement. And this was kind of based on other Pride movements seen, primarily like the LGBTQ Pride movement, that there was, it wasn't just identifying as ex-users or ex-survivors of a system. It was actually finding pride in the thing that was originally classified as broken. And the reclamation of the word mad was kind of a reclaiming a point of a word that was normally weaponized, right? Because madness was synonymous with insanity. You can't separate the 2. And I have read readings and snippets and essays where people try to separate the 2. They try to separate the mad identity from the concept of sanity and insanity, meaning that you could be mad and you could be sane. And I think that nuance is fascinating, and it really does not address the systemic violence that the psychiatric industrial complex as of today is enacting, and nuanced and upholding the validity of the word sanity. And that's why sanism really feels like this kind of political ideology to kind of be rooted in a belief that subjugation and domination that can be embodied, right? You know, the empire living in your mind. And so for us, MAD is always a political experience, and it's a political identity because it's deeply connected to the historical and cultural lineage of people who were held against their will, psychiatrically incarcerated, stolen, violently harmed and or stolen or killed in all of the large area of institutionalized existence, right? And so the MAD identity, which is why we capitalize it, is because it is the lens in which all of our personal kind of liberatory politics orients itself from. And so that's why that idea of praxis, you know, I wrote that for the NFT Club because it felt like the next thing, this next branch of looking at MAD liberation through the act of a frame, like as a perspective that you did other things from, and not just a state of being. Like I am MAD 24/7 when I sleep, when I live, when I breathe, when I'm having a meltdown, or when I'm in state of joy, I am MAD. And I believe that state has the ability to transmute into creation because it is a state and it is an identity that is rooted in a history where so many people were lost and so many people were unnecessarily and coercively and against their will tortured and hurt. And it's connecting to lineages where disabled people, gay people, women, Black people, Indigenous people were classified as insane just for being, you know, and, you know, I was reading about the history of the DSM, right? And the Gay Liberation Front basically kind of like did a bunch of direct action to get homosexuality taken out of the DSM. And it was classified as a mental illness in the DSM-2, and it wasn't taken out of the DSM until 1974. And so this idea of a cultural lineage of madness, it is not a rejection of the state, like the existence of the psychiatric industrial complex. It is a commitment to the liberation for everyone that is in the system as an antithesis to dismantling sanism. And so I feel very passionate about the MAD identity. and its cultural and political origins. And we have a really good friend named Leah, who is an incredible writer, and their brilliance is just there's so much gratitude to be connecting to this being in this world. But Leah actually coined the term madcesters, which is a combination of the word mad and ancestors, as a way to connect to the people in this madcestral lineage who were publicly mad, who were killed for being mad, who lived mad lives, and how did they show up? And you know, and this is why we keep calling Florence Kennedy internally the mother of madness, because it's this, you know, it's being mad is the third point to being sanist or anti-sanist, right? It's that third point that creates a spatial kind of disintegration of the sane and insane binary, while also recognizing that binary needs to be transmuted and abolished and disintegrated and rebuilt. And so I don't know if I answered the question.
I mean,
What's the question?
deeply.
Totally did.
I want to, we want to hear more about the project, but just, you all said so many good things. I was like, taking notes. Now I'm like,
Oh, you took a bunch of notes.
Whatever. It was beautiful. I'm so grateful for all your work. And I have seen the Madcester thing. I love that. I love playing with Ancestor. And thank you. Do you want to, before we go, we have two other little things, but I would love to hear.
Talk about the project real quick.
I think it's really, I'm personally, we're both really excited about it and are definitely going to become members of your club. So tell us all about your NFT club. And
okay, so the NFT club, so kind of connecting back to this kind of planting this seed that in the state of madness and being a mad person and being mad and multiple at the same time can be meaningful, can be a place of curiosity, and really trying to understand madness and mad as a adjective that has some sort of movement, right? And so we started thinking a lot about mad art and mad life and being a mad collective, and started doing a lot of writing about the idea of the collective experience. And for us, the collective experience is within. It's the collective within, but it is also the collective without. I keep saying that. It's so funny because I think I wanted to say the collective without because it feels like a natural juxtaposition to the collective within, but it has such a different meaning because it is not a collective without, it's the collective on the outside. And the collective that is the external symbiosis. And so really kind of playing into that energy and also feeling completely demoralized by capitalism and the world and the extended chaos and crisis of every timeline that all of us are living through at this time, because it feels like there's rapid intersection and collision of reality tunnels. And so there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of crisis. And I know personally those experiences are states of madness, right? And looking at states of madness as being able to be other states of grief, states of joy. Those are just madness in different flavors. And so, we started making zines and books when we were very young. And I've always kind of been very much into art and writing. And this project was kind of came after randomly creating two zines over the summer that we collectively wrote. It was a bunch of photography and writing. And we didn't want to make them for anyone because this writing was not meant to be public. It was writing that had been classes that kind of internally kept on our phone as system writing and writing to each other. One day, one of us got the courageous idea to make a zine with this writing. And, consensually, right? If there was consensus and it was okayed by everybody who wrote it, but it was like, fuck, no one's going to care about what we say to each other internally. And so we just made this zine, right? We made a poetry zine, spontaneous poetry zine, and then we made this spontaneous system zine and literally printed out one copy of each, taped it together, and was like so proud of it. So proud of it. And people were like, are you going to make copies? And I was like, fuck no, fuck capitalism. I don't want to make copies of this. I made this for us. And then as we kind of showed it to more people, and literally they were just like images of the zine, people would read it and they'd be like, holy fuck, like this. And this was people that were close to us, right? And, Carly, we sent some to you, and it was like kind of stepping into that space of like, okay, maybe people would want, there would actually be maybe a group of people that would want to read our reading or our writing. And it wasn't that we hadn't been published before, right? We had been published in anthologies and magazines and stuff like that, but it was very specific to a topic that was not us. This would be writing about us. This would be writing about madness. This would be writing about multiplicity. This would be writing about neuroqueerness, and through the lens of our voices. And so once we made the decision, was like, yeah, we're going to make scenes. Then it was this idea of trying to figure out how to create a project that aligned with our values, aligned with us taking leaps, courageous leaps, even though we're fucking terrified of asking people to financially support this kind of mad vision, and also making it worthwhile, that the reason why this experience was being created was not necessarily to, survive financially, which is a benefit, right? We calculated all the numbers, and the numbers are actually very magical. We did a lot of writing. We didn't just randomly come up with numbers. We came up with numbers that felt good to us, that emotionally had like good colors and nice edges, and that felt magical. Like every step of creating this model has been casting mad magic into the world to kind of bring to kind of create the space that mad art is not created in a silo, that mad art is created from the start of the project. And so even the setup of the NFT club, the fact that it's called the NFT club, it's like straight madness, just being in that space and claiming it as a practice. Mm-hmm. Whew, it is scary. It's terrifying. But like the basis of the club is that you commit to 12 months in our 39th year, because this is October 31st. Our birthday's on November 5th. Remember the 5th of November. And this is our leap of faith to cast a spell for our 39th year that we could create some mad art. And so it's a monthly zine club. That is also a monthly sticker club. That is also kind of this experience to write in person or publicly through an experience we call the NFT Club. And the NFT Club is kind of, standing on top of the ground of what people think NFTs are, which are non-fungible tokens, which is kind of like the very basis of it is it's a piece of data that is considered unique, that is held on a blockchain, which is what cryptocurrency is held on. And so it's kind of like a digital one of a kind. And that digital one of a kind data, artists have now realized that they can benefit from, and they can assign replicas of pieces that they make in real life to these individual bits of data and survive in this new digital fucking strange landscape of the internet. And because we were so deeply influenced by you, Carla, over a decade ago, I think we have somewhere on a backpack that pin that's like the yellow paper that says analog love.
Yeah, analog love. Make analog love or analog love, yeah.
Yeah. And so really kind of standing in that seed that was planted so many years ago and being like, well, what would an NFT be if there was no internet? and I mean, I should 100% credit my partner. Got really into taking Polaroids, and one day we were out walking and he was taking a bunch of Polaroids, and he was like, Polaroids are the original NFT. And I was like, yeah, they are. And so really this essence and was kind of combined from that brilliant perspective, but also the fact that my mother and my stepfather are incredible artists, and they're moving into this NFT space, the actual NFT space. And I was like, okay, art is changing. Being an artist, being creative is changing. How can I make this mad? So I, of course, took the acronym of NFT and made it my own. So nifty, fungi, fem, trinkets.
That's amazing.
Love it so much.
Yeah.
And nifty is a shortened kind of phrase that is supposed to be rooted in the basis of magnificent. Fungi fem is how we identify online, which is also a pun. Fun guy, fem. And then trinkets are kind of this, the glamour fem magic of this idea that penguins give pebbles to their friends, right? And what's a fancy pebble than just like a little trinket? So that's why we called it the NFT Club. And so by the time this episode comes out, the project will be launched, and there are a limited amount of spots, because the meaning behind the art project is that the experience isn't totally public. There is a level of wanting to actually physically do the project as a being who's also disabled and chronically ill. And I don't know, I'm really excited. And there's also the fear that it could totally not work. And that's okay. Because it feels like a giant act of courage to try to do something like this, essentially create a mad version of Kickstarter meets Patreon, except, from the lens points of those two websites really hate sex workers. So not wanting to support their business models. And Kickstarter is a little bit better, but any model that is tied to financial stuff like that, really, they really boot communities that we're a part of. And so, and I don't like capitalism, so I didn't want to do those websites. And so I was just trying to do something else, right? And so it's a big undertaking, but it is an act of courage, because for us, the definition of courage is taking an act while being in the state of fear, or being in relation to fear, or relationship to fear. So we consider being scared about this like halfway point to courage. We're already halfway there.
It's amazing.
Well, y'all will have a few of us signed up already. But I hear you. I hear what y'all are saying about, capitalism has part of capitalism and colonialism and whiteness is that, success is measured in these really rigid ways. And of course, I'm going to just stay curious of what y'all create. And I can't wait to put them in my pocket, because I learned that phrase from you all like over a decade ago about "you're in my pocket" as a way to carry around people who are your kin, but you maybe don't live near each other or can't see each other. So
it's amazing.
The fact that you all are making them pocket size just spoke to me in a deep, deep way. So I'm stoked.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited.
Me too.
I wanted to say that Toronto is on Mohawk land. It's actually, the word is really close to Toronto, like to Toronto or something, but my speech impediment won't let me say it. But I just wanted to say that for people listening and who maybe are curious. Yeah.
Thank you for finding that out.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I wanted to ask if you have current favorite word or mantra.
This is like, our
This is the hardest question, actually.
Okay, I'm going to pick two, because always defying the idea that answers should be singular. The first one that I think we already said earlier was a quote by Florence Kennedy. It said, "Don't agonize, organize." And that right there could be a mantra in itself. And I like the idea of mantras as something that you can say that is a limited amount of words, but has a deep reflection just by saying it. Don't agonize, organize. So that's the first one. And the second one is, okay, this phrase is a mantra that has seeds and origins planted in Zen Buddhism specifically. But ironically, I first heard about it from a really cool radical anarchist that is in local community. And so we'll tie it back to all origins, right? And that phrase is chop wood, carry water. And that is a phrase that is from this space, this story, where a person is talking about seeking enlightenment. Mm-hmm. And so they do all the stuff to kind of seek a state of enlightenment. Mm-hmm. And what they did before enlightenment was chop wood and carry water.
Right.
But like the cool thing that they did after enlightenment was chop wood and carry water. I mean, and for me, the chop wood, carry water is that every action can be radical.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Every action, and every action is needed, and sometimes it's the small moments that are the actual pockets of joy and space. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you all.
You're welcome.
We have. Well, do you want to do that?
I mean, we do it in every one. So
yeah.
Yes.
But it's a bit different because you've already named a few books, but.
Yeah, just asking, for you to recommend any other books, podcasts, websites, that can be kind of about, madness, sanism, neuroqueer, etc. I know you've already named a bit of things, but is there any other little?
Yeah. I personally, I was thinking about this question a lot. I was like, Liam is going to ask us for resources. We have to think of some. Didn't really think it was a lot. So any of the, I would encourage anyone to read anything that Florence Kennedy has written. And she has a lot of books, and there's books written about her. She passed away in 2000. So, most of writing and essays and speeches from her. There's a really amazing musician who's mad and so mad identified, but also was one of the early kind of founding network collective that once was formerly known as the Icarus Project, but now is known as the Fireweek Collective. And this person, their name is Bonfire Madigan, and they're like a radical punk rock cello player. And so their music is incredible. And so kind of as like a mad praxis lens. And they were creating music in like the late 90s, early 2000s. As for specific books, I don't really have any. I would encourage everyone, if they haven't read the book Care Work, Dreaming and Disability Justice by Leah Lakshmi, who has other last names that I don't know how to pronounce, but are there. Do you know how to pronounce them?
I don't. I mean, I would hack them up, but we'll you can get it at AK Press, and we'll also have it in the show notes. Leah is amazing. Yeah. Yep.
So their book, Care Work, Dreaming and Disability Justice, I think is incredible for looking at care work and understanding it from a disability justice approach, which for me is where mad praxis is really kind of rooted in. And so also connecting any work that Leah has written or done, but also Sin's Invalid is a really amazing disability justice collective in California that puts out a lot of incredible resources. And that might be all I have.
No, that's great.
I feel like there'll be like there'll be a bunch of resources that we remember after the fact.
You can send them, and we can totally put them in the show notes as follow up resources. I think once you all sent me a video on the origin of sanism from, I think it actually came out of Toronto. That was like this animation. It was really cool. It helped my brain. It helped me understand it. So.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad to know that because I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Glad one of us did that.
I mean, yeah. All by the way, I loved the zines that y'all made this summer. It was an honor to read the system one. That was so cool.
Yeah.
Were you gonna say something?
Oh, I want to, because I know that the podcast is not coming out on Halloween, but I was just like curious about if you're gonna go as anything for Halloween. Gonna dress up at all?
I'm wearing like a cat print dress.
That's amazing.
Kitty.
Yeah, and you know, I might be going as exhausted. This is my favorite holiday time of year. Energetic space.
Mm-hmm.
It's liminal. It has so many deep historical and cultural roots in every direction.
Yeah.
And you know, I think I'm just gonna sit by a fire tonight. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, and kind of just be a being that is in this space, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
And that, you know, yeah, I'm trying to think of anything. Usually in the before times, I did a lot of things.
Yeah.
And even last year, we had a theme that was dress for the apocalypse you wish you had happening.
That's interesting. Yeah. Last year I didn't go as anything.
It was,
yeah.
I think I dressed in a onesie as a cat because that's the apocalypse I wanted. I wanted the onesie.
That's amazing.
Comfort.
Yeah, comfort.
Comfort.
That's pretty great.
And comfort.
I love it.
So I may wear the onesie again tonight.
Oh, yeah.
And if I do, that is a cat onesie. So at least I'm in theme.
That's amazing.
Is there anything else? Is there anything else y'all would like to like? Is there anything just to tie a bow up? Not that it's always emerging. These conversations are always flowing. We're really grateful that you all were willing to talk about such deep ideas and actions and praxis. But is there anything else?
I do. I have a question.
Okay.
Because we have that other project. We have the Community Grief Beads project.
Oh, we love our beads.
Yeah, and we sent beads to both of you. And I don't know, like, do you like them? Like, sometimes I'm just wondering, like, do they, you know, how are they doing? How are your beads doing?
Yeah, mine are beside my bed, hanging there. Someone is making noise. Anyways, yeah, mine are beside my bed, just hanging kind of like on my nightstand. And I'm loving them. Anytime I'm kind of, you know, having like the worst night or processing something. A lot of times if I'm processing something, I put it on. Normally I put it on under my shirt so it's against my skin, especially. So I'm loving them.
Yeah, same. Anytime I'm having severe anxiety that is usually on top of grief. It's usually when I need to cry. I go, they're this physical thing to touch, and I know that they were put together with that idea of collective grief and holding, making that connection. And then when I hold them, I'm really tactile, so I move them all through, and I find the one that's going to help, or I wear it like Liam said against my around my wrist a lot, sometimes around my neck, but mostly I wrap them around my right wrist, and I always cry, that release cry, and then the anxiety goes away. So you all have done a beautiful thing by making the grief beads. That's also on your website, right?
Yeah. I that's something that we've been doing. It's March 2020, and
amazing.
Still do them, and so it's really cool to talk to other beings that are now in relationship to the grief beads, right? Because because like we can feel them, we know they're out there, and this is the hope that the NFT Club will allow for more space for us to bead more and create more art for that grief project. So because that's still happening,
right?
So
yeah, I love the grief bead project, particularly because it's woven into the collective grief and that idea of, we're connected, and we keep each other safe. It's just embedded in that.
I really like
it.
Last question.
I mean, this will be in the show notes, but maybe y'all can just give the URL, the internet's handles, and how we can find y'all.
Yeah. So on the social internet, we are Fungi Femme. So I believe we've been taking a break from social internet. So I'm looking at, I have forgotten our handle. We are. Really the main ones where you could find us being social on the digital space is on Twitter at fungi_femme. We also are on Instagram at fungifemme. And we've also been making TikTok, which is a really cool kind of practice of mad art through that visual stuff, because I love editing. I love making videos. And so we're also Fungi Femme on TikTok. And our website is fungifemme.com. And specifically the URL for the NFT club is fungifemme.com/the-NFT-club. I don't know who put dashes in it. That was one of us, but we'll send it to you, but it should be in the show link.
Cool.
I love dashes.
And I love the dash and M dash, specifically the M dash.
Well, I don't mean to dash off, but it's been great. I know.
I love ending with puns. They're my favorite.
Thanks for listening to our show. Grounded Futures is a media production and mentorship collaborative, and this podcast is produced by Carla Bergman, Liam Joy, Jamie Lee Gonzalez, and Melissa Roach. And our sound tech is by Chris Bergman.
Resources and transcripts for this episode are in the show notes. If you want to donate some funds or check out our other awesome shows, head over to groundedfutures.com or email us with comments and suggestions at groundedfutures@gmail.com. And please tune in next time to hear more from our incredible guests on how to thrive in the everyday.